we. Welcome to the SatAM Club, where we take a look at the Saturday mornings of days past. Welcome to the SatAM Club.
Hello everyone! It's Saturday morning. I've got some friends, I've got a nice beverage, and it's time to talk about some Saturday morning programming. It's the SatAM Club.
Hey.
I want to welcome our special guests for today's episode. We have Gajinka.
Hi.
Zen, also known as Zen Gaming 101.
Thank you. The 101 is very important.
Yep, well, we got to remember it. I mean, are you taking us to school, right?
I guess so.
Gaming 101.
And Sunny, welcome. Thank you for joining us again. All right, so today is a special episode because it goes right into our theme for January of New Year, New Era, because we went to 1996 to watch back-to-back cartoons of two fighting game franchises that became huge in the 90s, and that is Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter. So, to give kind of a frame of reference, let's take a look back at the time frame and what it meant for these franchises at the time.
This is Sega's Mortal Kombat. Lots of blood, lots of heads rolling. This is being called Mortal Monday because Nintendo has also issued a version of Mortal Kombat today.
They are calling it the hottest, most successful fighting game of all time, Mortal Kombat 3.
Combat begins.
You've played it. You've watched it. Now, live it. Mortal Kombat, the live tour.
You have to wonder, is Mortal Kombat really suitable for kids?
It's training them to enjoy and like violence as a form of conflict resolution.
This is a fantasy. This is not reality. And I don't believe people could punch somebody's head off if they tried.
But today, the game makers themselves blinked. Under pressure from an angry Congress and angrier parents, game makers offered a new rating system.
For you, the day bison graced your village was the most important day of your life. But for me, it was Tuesday.
So let's dive in here with Mortal Kombat Defender of the Realm. So this is a show that lasted one season. I believe it was 13 episodes.
Yep,
Both
13
the
episodes.
shows that we watched today aired on USA Network, and I believe were produced by USA's own studio, if I'm not mistaken. Here, I know at least the Street Fighter one was. So, gosh, we have so much to talk about with this. So, first of all, let's talk about the fact of how big 1995 was for Mortal Kombat to get into 1996. So in 1995, Mortal Kombat released Mortal Kombat 3, and it was the biggest campaign ever for, they just put in such a huge campaign into promoting this, and it was a huge game and a huge deal at the time. They added a bunch of new mechanics to the games, they really put it out there in the stratosphere, and then we got the Mortal Kombat movie, the live-action one, which was a success, a pretty wild success for the time, especially when it comes to video game films. And then on top of all of that, they decided to go into animation and make an animated series called Defender of the Realm. Now, it's very interesting for those of us who are lifelong Mortal Kombat fans, because it's definitely some whiplash. If you've followed Mortal Kombat over the years, like I have, you know the characterization of all these characters, the voices for all these characters. Even when the voice actor changes for them, there's a general feel of this is what like Katana sounds like. This is what Liu Kang sounds like. And but in 1995 to 1996, you know, around the time when they were making this, we were getting our first looks at representations of this as far as voice acting goes. Because all we really had at that point in the video games was
just voice samples and stuff like that.
the little
like little one-liners.
Now, granted,
get over here.
But yeah, I have to mention Mortal Kombat 4, I think, was the first in-game. Although I don't remember when Mythologies came out, so this could be a little bit different. But
I believe it was 4, though.
4, we got voice acting in the games for the endings. And if you haven't seen the endings for Mortal Kombat 4...
Going somewhere, Jarek? Jax! I thought you were going to... Thought I was what? Dead? Like my partner you just tossed off the cliff? I'm sorry, Jax. Please, don't drop me.
Good shit. It's very good. It's very good shit.
I'm coming in this as somebody who's only seen the live-action Mortal Kombat first 2 movies. I have not seen the third one.
Which is fine.
And only played like versus with Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
So this was definitely interesting.
Yeah.
To say the least.
The thing about this is, and a couple of these stuck out to me, and we'll see what stuck out to you guys. One of the biggest things, because we have to talk about the voice acting.
I have to stop him. Wait! Think before you leap.
I don't think any of the voice actors themselves were bad. However,
voice direction,
the choices for the voices and how they would be is definitely different from how we know these characters to have gone on to be. Liu Kang is the biggest one for me.
Yeah,
there were 2 for me, but Liu Kang, he sounded very soft-spoken. And I feel like they were going for a very tropey protagonist with him for that time period. Especially following the movie, because it seems like the series was kind of following after the groundwork they laid in the movie. And I mean, there is a cadence to a Liu Kang voice. There is a personality, and not just that, but
Brian Tochi was the voice actor.
And I have nothing against Brian. It's not that.
No.
I just think it was an odd choice.
Again, it just voice direction is really the case where a lot of these go wrong. I mean, I want to quickly just say real quick. Yeah, I've been as long as a Mortal Kombat fan as you have. Of course, I haven't been alive on this earth as long as you have. But in terms of like Mortal Kombat stuff like that, knowing the product and the IP itself, and like you said before, we know the characterizations and stuff like that. 4 really did bring up the upworks on that. But for this, the direction was very new, and no one really knew what I'm not sure if it's the company who didn't really know how to do it, or Ed Boon just kind of pulled things aside. I'm not sure what exactly was the plan with it, but the outliers are 100% Liu Kang. I had the thought that they were gonna. Because it was such a soft-spoken, high-pitched voice that I thought they were trying to go for like the bicycle kick.
I can see that. Yeah,
I thought they were trying to go for that kind of cadence, which is kind of wild. But yeah, go ahead.
It could have just been the climate at the time, because I remember saying something about somebody else, specifically Princess Katana in the show, and Ford posted a number of the actors, and a number of these actors are African American, and the first thing in my mind was, wow, this is surprisingly diverse.
Oh yeah, the cast is
for the time.
The cast is interesting because there's some big names on this cast.
There's one that's crazy. That's
Cree Summer, who is just been in so much. It was Katana. Ron Perlman.
Yeah.
The Ron Perlman, as in would go on to become Hellboy Ron Perlman.
And then a year later, after this, he would do the voiceover for Fallout 1, which is one of his more prominent roles in gaming.
Oh, I forgot about that. Oh
my
god.
Yeah, but he played Stryker, and
I have thoughts about Striker, but I'll talk about that another
time.
Yeah.
And then Sub-Zero was voiced by the one and only Luke Perry.
I thought I saw that.
Wait, I didn't. What?
I'm serious. That was Luke Perry, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, "Oh, I can hear it."
Researching
because
that's crazy.
That is another voice that was off to me.
Yeah, no, completely.
And again, not because of Luke Perry, but because I just didn't think that
Okay. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. He sounded like the edgiest man I've ever heard in my life.
Out of my way!
He sounded like Shadow from like 100% in every way. Like that man was like, my life is so dark because I live in Mortal Kombat. Like,
here's the thing: is that like some people just their voices naturally lend better to that dark raspiness in animation, especially or a video game, and some when they go to do it, there's a disconnect. There ends up being a disconnect between the voice that's coming out and the character that's shown on screen, and it's like, again, I don't fault Luke Perry. I think he's a decent guy, and I'm sure like he really put his all into what he was directed. So it's passable, but it feels off to somebody, especially who's a fan. And I think part of it too, it's like when you Mortal Kombat X and Mortal Kombat 11 Sub-Zero in particular has a very deep voice.
You re-establish the Shirai Ryu as I reform the Lin Kuei. We both seek to shed our clan's dark pasts, dedicate them to Earthrealm's protection.
The voice direction is like way more. I don't really know the wording.
I think they were trying. They were trying with what knowledge they had at the time, and they were going for, theming with what was, like, this is one of those issues that I think happens with anything that's a franchise of this nature when you're trying to bust into something new. Like, Mortal Kombat was a successful video game franchise that now is trying to push into movies, animation, other franchises.
Toys, stuff like that. Just marketing in general.
But animation has its own stuff going on with it.
Oh, yeah.
So you just come into that world, and a lot of times you end up meeting with all of these various factors, and especially things like, networks. We've talked about network influence and standards and practices on this show before, so we never know unless it's been reported. We don't know how much influence certain factors had in making these decisions that pushed it to here. So it's like, for all we know, it could have been the best we could have got, or there was a lot of just messing around. It's hard to say.
Can I mention something?
Absolutely.
Like, something clicked in my head. I was like, when did the first Mortal Kombat toys come out? 1994, Hasbro released the first Mortal Kombat figure set. So this very well could have been sell the toys.
Mortal Kombat, it's interesting now because, now granted, I think we've talked about this in the show too, about how in the 2010s there was this kind of like movement of like nerd culture starting to be cooler. And you go to places like Hot Topic or GameStop even anymore, and a good chunk of the store is collectibles.
FYE.
Is mainly the FYE was predominantly a music and movie store, and now it's like the FYE in my local mall is like 3 aisles of music and movies, and the whole rest of it is like clothing, collectibles, etc.
It stands for your entertainment.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what it stands for, actually? Real quickly, I wanted to... So, you mentioned toys a second ago, around the same time. Around 94, 95, there was also the Malibu comics that were being released for Mortal Kombat.
Yes, indeed.
And I remember I had it was the Goro one, and I forget, because that was a whole comic set on, I think it was Goro's backstory, and how he got to outroute, like the outer
Oh
roll.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, outer rolls. But yeah, that was like that whole comic. But yeah, like comics were also being pushed at the time. The toys were being pushed at the time. It was just a huge Mortal Kombat phase at the time because MK3 was like the biggest MK.
Oh yeah.
Realizing just how little I know about Mortal Kombat.
It's fine.
Yeah,
it's fine. You don't have. It's a 30-plus-year-old franchise at this point, so there's a lot of info out there.
You know what's really interesting though? I think MK2 and Doom 3. No, MK2 and Doom came out in the same year, so like that was a big push for like just like adult games, even though it really wasn't. It was just
it's interesting too because obviously Mortal Kombat was the franchise that really got the conversation going on violence in video games and gave us the ESRB rating system that we have today for video games. For me personally, because like it is one of those things, especially when I chose to do Mortal Kombat month this month. Is overall I'm a pacifist, but one of my favorite franchises is the most violent video game series, one of them ever. You know, it's known for it. So that's why, even for the trailer for this month, I was like, I put it right in there. I'm like, yeah, watch how a pacifist can love a violent video game series.
Yeah,
but I think it's we're not covering the movie in this, but there's a line Raiden has in the movie.
The essence of Mortal Kombat is not about death, but life. Mortal men and women defending your own world.
Well, what's not better than that, right?
Yeah, speaking of violence real quick, and this is actually gonna, and Sunny can actually help me out with this conversation in a second. So the lack of violence in this cartoon, because of course it's a cartoon for children, and then not before M-rated system, because of course ESRB wasn't even a thing yet, but it's really funny how this entire concept of it being the most violent thing that kids can have, and a congressman talking about how kids are gonna punch other kids' heads off, and it's insanely wild. But we have a cartoon on it, and because it makes money. But the lack of violence in this cartoon is actually absurdly not even random, but just it feels weird because let's real quick. So the SNES version of Mortal Kombat 2.
I know where you're going.
Was MK1? Excuse me. It was MK1 that had no violence, but the Sega Genesis version.
There was no blood. It was the blood code. Yeah. It was the blood code. Yeah, because they painted it, they colored it white and said it was sweat.
Yeah, I didn't know about that actually. That's great. But okay, so that copy sold less because of the lack of their blood. But it's interesting in the show because there's a moment in the show where Jax, I think it was Jax or a Striker, I forget who punched a skeleton and then did the whole rest in pieces.
Rest in peace, or should I say, pieces?
Yeah. And then, but the whole bit was he punched the skeleton. He says rest in peace, more like rest in pieces, but you don't see the skeleton.
Yeah, there's no pieces of a skeleton at all.
It's like they set up the joke in the writing and then didn't actually animate it or something.
Like the drawing,
right?
like the storyboard didn't account for that. But it's interesting though, because later in the episode, I thought it was just them being afraid of showing skeleton parts or something being run about. But then Sonya kicks one and it just blows up.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, why did you do this for this part? I don't get it.
Why was there an explosion?
Yeah, and also me and Sunny were talking about this, but the animation was very cheaply done in some areas.
It felt like a very 80s cartoon feel to me. Was it anybody else?
Oh yeah.
No,
sure.
it was very
definitely an art.
reminiscent.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
It's definitely an art style that you don't see anymore. That's for sure.
Yeah. To me, it reminded me a lot of He-Man.
Yeah,
as
no,
far
I
as
get
the
that.
animation styles, especially when they're like at the little area that eventually becomes a portal, and Scorpion's up there at the top of the stairs, and I was just like, by the power of Grayskull, like
It
in
really
my
had that
head.
vibe. Yeah.
So
It really did.
now, one thing that is interesting because, and this is something for especially Zen and I, because I know both of us have been playing Mortal Kombat 1, which is a kind of it's simultaneously a reboot and a continuation of the series. And so, like, the entire timeline of Mortal Kombat's been reset, and characters have new origins and stuff, and some of them have new voices and new personalities and stuff, but they all still feel very much like the character. So we've seen that. I mean, granted, some of them have definitely been a major change, Tanya being, I think, arguably the most changed for me. But the characterization of some of the characters in this series, and again, like I said, this was early days in figuring it out, but you already had the lore of 3 games to go into this. So it kind of like... Alright, Raiden. I want to talk about Raiden.
Okay, I'm curious of what you have to say, because I have a lot to say about him as well. But
now,
I'm curious.
I respect that this is in the mid-90s. And you know what was really big in the mid-90s? Not that you would ever... I don't think this is something people would designate as a trend, necessarily, but it's true. The 90s was a very sarcastic decade.
Oh, yeah.
And so was the God of Thunder in this cartoon.
You're coming?
Give me a break, Jax. You know I can't fight your battles for you.
Why not?
Sometime when the world isn't about to be invaded, I'll draw you a diagram.
Oh
my
God.
But
my gosh.
I will say, though, Raiden is an asshole in general, though.
Yes, but, well... naive twink Raiden isn't. But...
Oh,
come on. Like, he's all naive, humble twink Raiden and the new one. I mean, granted, I like him.
MK9 vibes out of this Raiden.
I will have an audience with Quan Chi.
You may address me. I will inform him.
Is this why you chose not to save your family and clan? To maintain your place at his feet?
Do not talk of my family, Raiden.
Fetch your master, Scorpion. I must speak with him.
He was a lot more of a dick in this one.
Like, he's such a dick. And now, granted,
Yeah.
but he's a dick in like in MK9 especially. Like, I get MK9 vibes, but I feel like even in MK9, it was more pointed. And
Yeah,
this
more
one,
pointed, desperation.
yeah, like this one, it was like
he was just being lazy.
an asshole to be an asshole.
Yeah.
Because at one point, where was the one where he looks at them and he's like, "Remember, I'm Mr. My Powers Don't Work in Outworld." What the hell was that line for Raiden?
Swear, like, if he had eyes where his lightning eyes were, they would have been rolling so hard.
Oh, absolutely. Like, and it was
90%
just like,
of his
whoa.
lines.
And, you know, so that was just like, it stuck out to me so much. I'm like, God, you were written to be the most cynical guy ever. And yes,
this was only episode 2, so like we
Yeah.
didn't even get like any kind of lineup of him being like, yes, do this.
also, I
yes,
might need
do
to look
this."
into this if this is literally a continuation of the storyline for the movie, or if it's just that's the vibe. Because if so, then they definitely portrayed him differently than I think his name is it Christopher Lambert. I want to say is his name that played Raiden in the first film. So, but yeah, Christopher Lambert had a way of playing him that was very like. Raiden's
very
obviously always is like, I'm super knowledgeable, right? Like, that's him. He's like, I'm a god. I've been around forever. I'm gonna do this.
I forgot to talk about early in the episode. The Scorpion bad guys are Scorpion spaceships or something.
Yes! Yes!
Yes.
And-
It's like,
and-
oh yes, you could tell it's Scorpion
so-
because look at their chest.
Yeah, and that's honestly, you know what's funny? I thought that when early on in the episode, I thought the first thing I was gonna want to talk about would be Scorpion's characterization in
There was
here,
none in
and then
here.
Yeah.
I want to say how much I enjoyed as somebody who, one, didn't play the campaign, or even knew about its existence up until today. That I loved the little bitty one-liners from the game.
I challenge you to Mortal Kombat.
Get over here! It has begun! Finish him!
It is interesting because we only watch one episode on this show. I would be very interested, and I don't know if I have the patience to sit here and watch all of it, but to watch
I don't.
Yeah. To watch it, if you watch the whole thing, does it get to a point where it becomes ham-fisted and not just a reference, you know?
I would imagine so. If just from the way the writing was and the way that things were like referenced and just talked about, it looks like it was just like forced down. It wasn't even like, okay, put a quote there. The kids will like it. Just do it. Just throw it in there. Yeah.
Let me ask
when
this.
Scorpion said his line, I was like, oh, he did it. He did it. He said the thing. He said the thing.
Like he did like 3 times though.
Here's
in one episode.
Here's an interesting point I wanna make here, or question, especially when you're getting into film, television. Is it? I don't want to say too much of a challenge, but almost too much of a challenge at times, like to include that many character backstories that are so in depth into making something in the film or television format.
Go ahead, could you go? I'm kind of curious.
I feel like, I feel like, especially in Mortal Kombat, they could have made specific character shows. Like, hey, it's the Katana show, or, you know, anything
It's
else
the
like
Katana
that. Give the back-
Da-da-da-da-da-da. Fan.
Man, Baraka show would be crazy.
Oh, did anybody else notice, like, didn't Katana's fans just look like plain white paper?
Wait, I don't even remember the fans. I'm not even joking.
They were barely in the episode.
They were barely in the episode, and they were just straight up, they looked like paper. They were not
speaking of which, the fight choreography was terrible.
Yeah.
It was so
man,
terrible.
it was
so
so bad.
It was like, okay, it reminded me of, like, take paper animation.
Yeah.
Like, say this is, I'm just gonna say it because I know this character's name, Katana, and just like paper animation kick.
But the thing is, they just stand there and then cut and then fall.
Yeah.
And so like,
I wonder. I also wonder how much of that is censors. Because I bet you any amount of money they had the censors looking heavily in on this, considering the reputation it had going in. Now, granted, the film was PG-13.
Yeah.
So it is one of the biggest criticisms of the original film is that it wasn't rated R.
Those are $1,300 glasses, asshole.
Yeah. All right. Let's. Okay. So overall, this. Am I correct? And everybody's part that this felt more like a cash grab than a genuine representation of the series.
100%.
Yes. 100%, especially now that I know in '94 was when Hasbro released the first toys.
Yeah, and now granted, I'm not saying that they actually tried to do a cash grab with it. They may have had good intentions with this at first.
Yeah. I think they wanted to have it. Go ahead.
It's the vibe that it gave us. The finished product leaves us as an audience feeling like this.
I do believe that they did try to make it an actual series. Like, they actually did want to continue this more than season one. I don't know what the season ender is on this. I don't know if it's a continuation. I would imagine it is.
Well, and it is always interesting. There's so many shows out there where the first few episodes or the first season are one thing because they're figuring out the characters and building it, but then season 2 and on is fantastic. Or certain things like, because it's Star Trek The Next Generation is like amazing season 3 and forward, and not saying that season 1 and 2 are bad, they're just not as many good quality episodes in them.
Yeah.
So,
but anyway,
one last thing before we jump on to the next.
Yeah.
The music. Best thing.
Honestly,
from the whole thing.
my one thing I want to talk about with it is it's basically like it's a good thing that this followed the movie, because it followed what the movie did with the film or with the music, I mean. And I mean literally, in that they incorporated the Techno Syndrome song into several things, where there was like variations on it where you heard it. You could still hear that movie music, that da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, you know?
Yeah. The motif is still there.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt again, but the flying part where they're monologuing as they're flying and that synthwave hit. That was sick.
Oh yeah, you messaged right away. You were like, yeah.
Yeah,
I was like, oh my god, this
that
music.
hit me.
Yeah, it's
right here.
And you know what it is? I think if I want to sum up this experience we have with the show today, or sum up what I feel about it, I think the term I want to use is growing pains.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
It's that not everything was terrible. Not everything was bad. There are, the music was great. I thought Sonya's portrayal was good. I thought Jax was decent. It's just that his voice wasn't deep like we were accustomed to. But I thought it was decent.
Anyway.
But I think overall, I think we've kind of gotten most of our points here about what we watched. It's growing pains. It's not perfect, but they were working on something, and we're very happy that at least it led to some of the products that we got afterwards.
Okay.
All right, so that being said, let's move into the second show we watched, which was the Street Fighter animated series. This one we did a season 2 episode, because this one actually got into a season 2. Not that deep into it, I don't think, but it actually did get a season 2. So Street Fighter again. I think I may have mentioned this earlier in the broadcast, and if I didn't, I'm mentioning it now. That Street Fighter was in this weird kind of transitionary period where they were getting out of Street Fighter 2 and its 67 different versions of that game. Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Street Fighter 2 Turbo Alpha, or whatever. Like, there were so many different variations, and I remember playing Street Fighter 2 on my old Sega Genesis back in the day. And Chun-Li was my main character, but I did a lot of Chun-Li and a lot of Dulcine, actually.
We're gonna have to fight over who's Chun-Li, huh?
I mean, they make alternate colored outfits for a reason.
They do now? Okay, good, okay. I think the main thing that I took away from this Street Fighter episode, it might just be me, but there was a lot of sexism and male gaze.
She's a wildcat! Nonsense! She's but a human, and a woman at that!
So, yes. Now, again, okay, let me ask this question here. And as a general thought experiment question. Which is more impactful? Making a piece of media like a film or a show where sexism doesn't exist and women are already empowered, or making a show where women are not empowered but make a point to empower the women against those who are coming at them?
Definitely the last one, but it was just it was almost like it was pushed to an extreme.
Those characters, I think they wanted to make a point. These are the villains, and they are jerks, and this is why. That's my guess.
Okay.
I don't know.
That would make sense.
I'm not saying that it's right.
Oh my God.
So,
oh no, I didn't think you were.
Yeah,
so
kidding
one of the
me?
things-
You
one of
wouldn't
the
be
things
my
I
friend
want
if you were.
to mention, and there's two things I want to mention. Firstly, we got to talk about the best character in the show that we've seen so far, the Melting Man.
The Melting Man! Oh my gosh! Wait, okay. So
y'all forgot.
Little peek behind the curtain. So, basically, I set everybody up with a file for these to start things off, and right away the still image of the first frame of the file had this guy who just like he had no neck. It looked like his face was melting off his body. And that's what we led into this show with, everybody.
Because that was the no one noticed it, and then I pointed it out, and then everybody was like, "Oh wait!"
And then we couldn't unsee it. Was the problem?
So
like,
of course.
hey, yo.
So we're gonna get a new show with him soon. I think it's gonna go to whatever streaming platform or whatever. But anyways,
Melting Man and the Fighters.
Yeah.
come up with feel free to comment below your suggestions for a name for the show.
You can actually make him a Street Fighter 5 now. The Critter's that wild, so yeah.
I forgot about that!
Yeah, you could make the Melting Man in Street Fighter 5. Anyways,
I was gonna say, I can't wait for the Melting Man DLC.
You can make him. But this actually leads into what I was gonna say next. The animation was a little bit better than MK1's, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But there were some aspects that were worse than MK1 in terms of animation. And I'm not sure if it's art style. I'm not sure if it's just the way it looks grimy is the best way I could really put it.
Yeah, it's 90s.
Yeah, but at the same token, like
Ninja Turtle kind of vibe.
Yeah.
It is. I think it's interesting the time period we're talking about here, because this is kind of a transitionary period when you really think about it, because you look at the couple of years right after this and the stuff that came out right after this, and you notice the improvements and the transition into more of the computer animation and such. So I feel like we're hitting that tail end of the classic animation era, you know?
I also think that this is kind of the era where the idea of being desensitized to like violence and stuff is just beginning. So this is almost like the catalyst of like younger audience and stuff being exposed to almost extreme violence type stuff. And that's why there is all this, oh my god, it's so violent kind of stuff started.
It is interesting though, because like I feel like it's a shift in the violence portrayal. Because I've been thinking about this, about classic Looney Tunes cartoons are actually violent AF.
Oh yeah, they're super violent.
Like, how many times have we watched Elmer Fudd point his gun at Bugs Bunny's face? Daffy?
Daffy, oh my god. Daffy Duck, literally, there's like a clip of him like just outright blasting someone under a table and then just not moving. So there's just
Now granted,
happens,
the big difference here is that they shake it off right away. With humans, obviously, it's a little bit different. I think that's the thing of like, it's not necessarily an introduction of violence, but a shift in what is portrayed as the violent nature of it.
It's really funny too, because this one was actually more violent than the actual Mortal Kombat cartoon.
I know. It was,
which is really funny.
So I have a few things I want to talk about with this one.
Yeah.
We had, now granted, Bison was in it for all of like 20 seconds.
A few scenes here and there,
Just introduction.
Yeah. But other than that, our main villain of the episode was one of the least villainous villains.
I'll make you a deal. All the power you crave. In return, you must use it to make me rich. Rich enough to retire on my own tropical island.
Like, I don't know, like, he had a villainous intention, but my god, like, he was just bad at being a villain, right?
It was like Melting Man's cousin, but he couldn't do what Melting Man does.
You know what? That's now my headcanon.
Actually, he does kind of look like him too, which is
I'm gonna need to edit a side by side of that now and put it up here on screen.
Because they look alike, but like, yeah, he like. So if I'm correct, it was some guy who Bison like pushed aside.
It was a scientist,
Yeah, he was a scientist that he kind of pushed aside, and he's like, "No, I'm gonna be a really cool scientist that's gonna make the most unbeatable monsters ever." And then like the crew, like he promised the crew that he grabbed for them, that they're never gonna lose a fight ever. And then that happened within the first minute of the show.
And then
it was Rocksteady and Turbo all over again.
They really were like the creatures, these like transformed men into lizard men, I guess, lizard people. So this whole thing centered on. So it starts with Chun-Li and her news crew, which is a kind of continuation of the storyline they made for her in the Street Fighter film. Because she's a news reporter in that, and her whole thing is that's a cover so she can get to Bison. The other part of that movie is this plot with Blanca, where they have some weird scientist who's like giving him this stuff to make him a monster. And that's what they really played on, is this mutagenic substance, which again went right back into Ninja Turtles. It very much felt like Ninja Turtles. Even the look of them looked like they belonged as a Ninja Turtles villain.
Yeah, real quick, like just to keep it actually concise real quick. So it starts off with Chun-Li as a news reporter reporting on something that happened in the store. And then from there, it cuts to like these creatures that are attacking for some reason. Like after they stop reporting on the store just blows up, and then
for no reason.
Yeah, for no reason at all. And then the creatures pop out, and then just take the crew. And then Chun-Li does Chun-Li stuff and kicks them and fights the
She
creatures.
does do her bicycle kick, or not bicycle kick, but the you know what I mean.
Sure.
The lightning kick.
Yeah, lightning kick. There.
It was. I had Mortal Kombat still stuck in my head.
Yes, no, same. It took a minute.
But she does that, after ripping up her skirt, pretty high, and male
It's like, oh, this skirt, it's restricting.
Yeah, but anyway, so we got that, and then of course the thing you were just talking about with the whole mutagenics stuff happens, and like, well, actually, it opens up on Blanca fighting some random dude in a ring.
Stay where you are. We'll be right there.
Oh,
and then
yeah!
And then Guy will be like, okay, we'll be right there. And then just Blanca just beats up a guy very shortly, and then he shocks him, and there's the Blanca thing. And then they go to the sewer. Just instant cut to the sewer. And they're just like, don't touch that. It's gonna turn you into a...
It's gonna turn you into me.
And then they just continue wading through the same exact water. Like, it's not just gonna, mix in there.
Whoa, I just thought about this sewer. That's another Ninja Turtles parallel. Holy crap!
Yeah.
A lot, yeah.
The amount.
Which, real quickly, I actually want to talk about the voice acting and voice direction in this.
Yes.
It's actually a lot better,
Mm-hmm.
but but the voice actors go like incredibly hard, like on some lines. Like, okay, the mutants, for example. Whoever voiced the mutants, I don't know the names. I didn't actually watch the credits. I apologize for that. They are going hard.
Definitely dangerous. For you, if you don't get started.
Do it. We need more mutagen. More.
They are so raspy. They've got to be like screaming for hours.
They all had to have had voice breaks afterwards.
Yeah, 100%. It was like insanely crazy. Also, Blanca's actor too. Like, he was going very deep in those like those roars and stuff.
And
I
looked it up while we were watching. The gentleman who played Blanca has a storied career. Like, he has so many roles, but one of the ones I know that our viewers will probably recognize him as Flam, as in Flim and Flam from My Little Pony Friendship is Magic.
He was? Oh my god, that's crazy. I mean, has range.
Yeah.
Nuts.
Because like it was weird because his voice sounded so much like it went almost too hard, I would argue, in this. Sorry, dude.
Yeah, no,
but it
100%.
sounded, he very much was like, I'll get you next time, Gadget.
DNA mutagen, the substance that made me into a monster.
Like, I really, at first, I thought it was the voice actor of Dr. Claw at first, as gravelly as it was.
It was like Dr. Claw meets Michael Keaton Batman.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a very good example of what that sounds like. It's very good. Yeah, but yeah, like I said, like you said, they go way too hard sometimes into it, like completely. Like the snarls are just like there's phlegm coming out of his throat currently as he's doing his line.
He did one really big snarl, and I was like, oh man, this man's got like sounds like he's hawking up like the biggest loogie.
It's really weird too, because the sound foley in this is actually okay for a a very early 90s like, because you can hear the jingle of like the dog tag from Guile as he walks.
That was a nice touch.
Footsteps.
It was
and the footsteps as like the sewer, like it's actually very on point. It's very interesting how that sound design went.
Yeah, it was definitely. I'll say there were some definite nice touches. I was a little put off. I feel like the villain, that scientist villain, had the opposite problem of everybody else, where everybody else is going too hard, and he was so soft, and he was the villain. Like,
Yeah.
it was so not a villain voice. Now, granted, he was just like a scientist who was kind of down on his luck, so I get it to an extent. But, like, and also the way he explained his, like, Master Evil plan, he's like, you guys will make me rich, right? And it's like, are you a 5-year-old asking mommy and daddy for money? Like...
It's like the most cowardly villain in existence.
Yeah.
And then, and this is the thing, now granted, I get you have to find ways to have continuity in stories and to bring villains back and things like that. They put him in a cage in the lair, like, that I'm assuming is, like, connected to Bison's hideout or something like that. And they just leave him there, and I'm like, aren't you the good guys? Shouldn't you? There's like 6 of you. You take the one villain with no powers whatsoever, who's just a guy, and you bring him with you. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, because they just let the other ones unconscious.
Like, they locked him up, but they locked him up there where somebody else could have the key. Or the other theoretical, if nobody has the key and nobody visits it because they knocked out all the rest of them, he could die of starvation, which makes them horrible.
I am imagining Chung-Li's contacting the cops or something.
That's true. But it's just, it's one of those funny things, and you see it all the time. And again, I know that there's that thing about having continuity for bringing villains back, but it's that thing about it where here's the way you do it, in my opinion anyway. I'm not the god of animation, but if the golden rule is if you don't see them die on screen, they can come back.
Yep.
So you just find a way to end it where you just don't directly kill them on screen. And even if you do, trust me, Mortal Kombat will tell you there's ways to bring them back.
Yeah, I was gonna say unless you just don't care and you'll kill them and just bring them back anyways. Like some shows just and some do that in general.
I know
a lot of them do that.
There are, and I'm sure at some point we'll get a show on this series where we discuss something like that, where it's what's he doing here, or the continuity errors.
I was gonna actually mention continuity errors. There was a really big one that I noticed in this in particular. It was in the sewers scene, which is like 90% of the episode, but like. So they're up in knee level at some point.
Yes.
But
then, like here, and then all of a sudden they get dragged down, and it's like, how did this?
It's
go
like this
from,
giant labyrinth of sewage water, underwater scenes fight.
With eugenics in it.
Yeah. Which I guess this is the thing I really want to.
Also in New York.
I guess bring up. I don't know if we brought this up before or not, but it's this. We have, to a certain extent, of this thing about, are they taking these shortcuts because they go, well, it's for kids, you know? And then, and my whole point of this has been, kids aren't idiots.
Yeah.
And kids do pick up on this stuff, and it does make our next generation. This stuff is informative to them of what things are and are supposed to be. So spending the extra money, the extra time, etc., to make it more consistent, to give it more oomph, matters.
Yeah,
Sunny,
it really does.
You said something earlier. I'm trying to remember what it was, but you said something about budget and not caring. What did you say?
Oh, was that you, Gajinka?
It was when you and Sunny were talking, and it was we could tell the difference between budget and not caring.
Yeah, it was talking about the differences between the two and how it could be like the budgeting or the time frame of just like wanting to spit shit out. So like it affects how well something comes across, and it could be one of those things of like they have the budget to make it look good, but they didn't have the time to make sure that it had all the continuity that it needed.
That could be too. Rush jobs to get an episode out. Which, granted, shows like South Park have proved that you can make quality content in a literal 6-day window. However, it's not easy. I mean, the amount of time and planning I go just to put in some of this stuff that I upload to the web, and I'm not talking about big budget productions, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
So overall, I'd say Street Fighter was okay.
It was okay.
It was okay.
Way better than Mortal Kombat for sure.
It was, but it was not something that would have drawn me in. Because I always like to try to take, like, the way that I like to do this at the end of the day is, imagine, if I was a kid, if I was like 9, 10, 11, whatever, 8, and I was flipping through the channels, and this is what I tuned on and stayed to watch, how would I have reacted?
You know, though, to segue out of this, a thing that I would watch was VR Trooper, the commercial that played during this.
Oh my God.
Okay, actually, all right, let's do that then. Why don't we transition from Street Fighter into the commercials then?
The first commercial we saw was the bubblegum Barbie.
The Barbie bubblegum maker thing.
Yeah.
Barbie has her own bubblegum shop. Make your own gum shapes, they're really cool. Press the handle down, it's fun to do.
Oh, that was so cool. I wish I had one.
I did not remember this existing. You know, it looks. I might play with that depending on how it was. Like, I think it's something I could have played at as a. Like, if my sister had it as a kid, I would have played with it. I don't think it's something that I would have gone out and bought myself as a kid. I wasn't comfortable enough to do that yet.
At first I thought it was like Play-Doh. Like they would just put like the Play-Doh in like the thing.
And no, they stuck it in their mouth.
Yeah, and then they stuck it in their mouth and actually ate it. I'm like, oh wait, you can actually eat this. Okay.
You can eat Play-Doh though.
You can, but it's not. Don't recommend it.
But like they were able to customize the flavor, the shape. They would put them in little capsules, and you could do them like a little gotcha machine.
Yeah, that was cool.
And it was cool.
Yeah.
I was genuinely like, you know, Barbie is something that for a long time, like, because at first, okay, let's talk about my history with Barbie.
Sure.
So at first, when I was a kid, there was two simultaneous things with Barbie. Because there was the, no, I shouldn't say simultaneous. I think one did lead into it. Because at first it would have been like well, that's a girl's thing. And then it's like, maybe I should try it if it's a girl's thing. You never know. And then it was like, Barbie is an unrealistic standard of beauty. That would have been more teenage me. You know, being like, what the hell? Like, and then was very much not about Barbie. But then, you know, and then I kind of got neutral to Barbie after that because it was like, who cares? But nowadays, I don't know. Like, they really, I think, have kind of woken up about a lot of that thing about how, like, first of all, the actual, people have done this, the proportions of the original Barbie doll, like, if you tried to have the proportions of Barbie, you would die, literally.
Yeah.
Like a human,
6'8".
Like, well, like your I think it's something like your rib cage cannot exist like that or something like that.
That's great.
You would have to have like extensive surgeries to try to do it.
I'm trying to remember. I think it was like you'd have to be 6'8". Your breast size would be like double F.
Which is insane because it doesn't look like that in the proportions on the figure, but if you tried to make it human. But what I love now, because I even remember in the 90s when the Barbie Girl song came out. Come on, Barbie, let's go party. They, like, it was very big. They had to have, like, we are not affiliated with Mattel or whatever on the, I own that album somewhere. Aqua's album that has it on it.
Okay, the segue is too good to pass up. But speaking of proportions, the next ad was Attack of the Giant Toolman.
For Home Improvement.
Home Improvement going into syndication.
I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry to cut you off there, but like that was just this perfect segue.
It was weird and unsettling. Like, I'm not gonna diss on Tim Allen here. It would be very easy for me to, but I'm not going to.
Yeah.
You know,
this
whatever.
Is what American Rule looks like, and then posted next to the Statue of
But
Liberty.
it's so weird seeing it because, like, what it did to me is it took me right back to the 90s in my head of that era where Tim Allen and Home Improvement was like king and family entertainment.
The next commercial was for metallic Power Ranger figures.
Oh yeah, because that reminded me. The reason I asked about the movie because this took me back to as a kid because I watched Power Rangers as a kid. Yes, it will show up on a future episode. But I remember this being around the time the movie came out and their outfits getting a little bit of a glow up for the movie, and the metallic made me think of it.
Yep. And that's exactly what it was. It was a blow up for the movie.
Yeah.
That was coming out shortly after, I believe, or shortly before.
It was somewhere around this time.
Yeah.
So.
Really close.
Let's see. After that was the Smokey the Bear commercial.
Oh yeah.
Drown your campfires with water. Make sure it's totally wet. Then stir and drown again.
Smokey the Bear was... First of all, Smokey the Bear was a real bear once upon a time. It was named after a real bear and then just became this whole character and this whole movement. And
I did not know that, actually.
It's one of the things that, I don't know, like, I never had a negative opinion of Smokey the Bear. It was always like, Smokey, he's cool. He's all right. So Smokey, I always felt, was a successful mascot in that regard.
Yeah.
But after that was the precursor to Nickelodeon's Floam.
I don't dry out the way clay does. You can mold me, stretch me. Yeah, my name is Smud.
Smud, which I guess that they were going for like the kids playing mud with the name.
Yeah.
But
slime and mud together.
I don't know. Like, there's a stereotype of boys playing in the mud and stuff. I mean, I did a little bit as a kid, but I don't know. I was never a big play in the mud guy. Were you?
No, I've never done that in my life.
I was a digger. Oh my god, did I dig so many holes?
I was a climber.
Mud pies and pretend potions.
I know a friend of mine who did like mud pies. I do know that.
I
was gonna say real quick. Yeah, this commercial is incredibly Nickelodeon. Like, just
claymation all over the place.
Yeah.
Super hyped up.
Let me ask y'all.
Yeah.
Did anybody have Gak or Floam at any point?
I got Gak for the meme, and a long time
My
ago.
cousins got Gak and Foam for Christmas one year, and I was not allowed to have it after they had the mishap of spilling it on carpet.
It's pretty bad carpet, yeah.
And
I did not hold of it.
the carpet was destroyed.
Yeah.
That's about right.
That stuff always seemed so like I think your point about the meme. Your point about the meme is such a thing because when I think about Floam,
it was such a, dude. That like, meme was a week. That's it. That was
but like it still rings true in my head of that where I feel I have fond memories, but I think the fond memories are more of the meme than the product. And this is the curse of nostalgia, I guess. That we remember them more fondly because they're associated with the other things.
Yeah, just to get context real quick to people who don't know what we're talking about. So in season 3 of premiere for My Little Pony, there was a commercial that kept playing during the premiere, and it was Gak. And Gak was like a slime type toy, kind of like how Smud is, but it played repeatedly on that day, and so like everybody just memed on it that week. And then, but anyway, speaking of stuff that comes out, chips that come out of little Pringle cans, we got Pringles coming.
That was the most 90s commercial we saw today.
It was so nice.
The fun don't stop. Pringles down. Pringles down.
It had the Smurfin, what is it?
Surfing Bird.
Surfing Bird.
Oh my God! This is Surfing Bird by the Trashmen. This is my favorite song of all time.
It was Pringles instead.
It was Pringles.
And like the prop design was fantastic in this ad. They had like the Pringle like little swing and then the hammer that did the spring. It was so cool.
They had the wheel that they designed.
Yeah.
But yeah, instead of bird, it was pop.
Pop in the can.
Anyways, though, the next commercial, we got debated on this one because we started all thinking that this is a Zoo Books commercial.
Yeah, we thought.
Oh yes, we thought it was Zoo Books.
Coming to this station, two very different creatures of the African plain, united by one delicate sound.
I got so excited. I saw the animals and I'm like,
the problem with it was all African-based animals, which was a lot of the main like animals that were advertised for Zoo Books. So like when it happened, it was like, oh yes.
Well, there are zebras, and isn't the zebra poster was like a big thing, or was
it was the tiger poster.
Tiger poster, that's what it was.
Yeah,
but zebras was a big part of Zoo Books.
So it wasn't just that it was animals. It was also the quality of the commercial.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it looked just like it.
It looked just like it.
But then it was not, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on who you ask, it was not Zubux. It was an ad for the premiere of Timon and
Pumbaa.
Yeah, which had its own show for a little bit. And
I honestly forgot about it because I only remembered The Lion Guard as far as Lion King spinoff shows.
I like the Timon and Pumbaa show. It was really cute.
I do remember Lion King 1.5, and it was hilarious too. So.
I want to talk about the next commercial because this one blew my mind. Not that one. The one after that. The one before it. It was the karate. What is it called? Karate fighter.
Karate Fighters. You control the action. Dragon Kick versus the Red Ninja.
Yes, because they were like.
This thing was sick.
Yeah, it was like Rock'em Sock'em Robots, but they could kick.
Yeah, it was like they could kick and do like crazy karate moves and stuff like that. And spin. Yeah,
it was like literally.
If I was a kid, I would have lost my mind. This is so
Can
cool.
we find this? Because I would legit play this with y'all at a con.
But
Alright,
yeah, these things were cool.
Oh yeah, this was so sick. The commercial was great. Everything was fantastic.
I think my cousins had it. I honestly can't remember. But I feel like I remember this.
Yeah, and real quick, speaking of aisles and like stuff that would have been in aisles, the next thing right after that would have definitely been in that aisle. Ford, do you want to go ahead? Do you want to go ahead and say the name of this beautiful, beautiful product that was given to children?
Coochie Coo Baby from Erdl.
I'm sorry, I'm cracking up. I can't help it.
Oh no, it's a simple name. It's a simple name with a simple concept. It has no issues at all.
It's the Coochie Coo doll.
Coochie Coo. When she cries as fast as I can, I give her a pacifier and
And we couldn't stop laughing because.
Okay, we're gonna say something.
I'm just giggling to myself.
Oh, okay.
We couldn't stop laughing during it just because of that terminology. Because I never thought about the fact. I really.
It didn't say it immediately. It was just like, oh, it's a simple doll.
It's a doll.
Oh, coochie coochie, and they're like, oh, these people say that.
And then we laughed. Well, no, we all laughed because we were like, oh gosh, we really said coochie coochie when we were young or younger to little babies, like and not thinking about the other definition for that word.
But
and then it flashes on screen that that's the name, and we're like,
wait a minute.
Yeah, the coochie coo baby. It like, what the fuck?
Coo.
Yeah, coochie coo baby. Yeah.
I'm just like, oh my god.
Oh my
when
gosh.
it first started popping up, I was like, oh, it's a Railay doll.
Oh, okay. And also, you have to kind of do like a CPR kind of like.
Oh, like, because it was one of those, like, this was a time, like, this was one of those, like, supposed to be more lifelike, you know, like, you're taking care of a real baby.
It also did a bunch of other things. Yeah.
And
so, like, in order to activate it, though, you need to, like, the girl was pressing down 2 fingers, is what you really do.
Yeah, it would suck on the pacifier, but you had to push on the stomach.
Yeah, which is really funny, because that's a CPR.
Yeah, but it's CPR on the belly.
on the stomach, yeah, I said at the chest, but, like, of course.
I mean, speaking of socialization toys, right?
Yeah. Anyways.
So, but overall with commercials, I mean, I don't know, like, I've been pleasantly surprised consistently with the commercials for the most part. There's a couple things that are like kind of but overall, like, I find we go back on this show, we watch old commercials and find products we want. So I guess advertising still works.
Yeah.
I have to mention this. What commercial did we not see?
We didn't see a single McDonald's.
Finally.
Finally.
We had 3 last week. We were due.
I guess little Jimmy isn't getting his McNuggets out today.
You know what's funny? I really am starving and I should have ordered my food by now. There's a part of me that's like, I could just run down to McDonald's. It's right down the street.
Get a good old 50-cent burger at a 50-cent McDonald's, baby.
Not anymore.
Let me get in my time machine. All right, but yeah, I mean, overall though, I mean, commercials were decent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was very much. I think a lot of socialization toys in this one. I would say is definitely a big trend that we're seeing here in the '90s that we haven't, or in this set that we didn't see as much in some of the other episodes. So that's interesting. But overall, I do want to say, you know, what we saw today, you know, not the greatest entertainment ever, but I'd say everything we watched today for the most part felt like stepping stones on the journey of these franchises and what we were, you know, what we were looking at and what we would get to. So,
because I mean, we wouldn't have Melting Head Man without Street Fighter. So,
exactly. You know, there's always a bright side to look at.
There's always, definitely.
I will forever look at Chun-Li.
And with that, I do want to thank everybody for joining us today. Thank you, Gajinka. Thank you, Zen. And thank you, Sunny. Be sure to check everybody out. My name is Forward Progress, and as always, remember to keep friendship magic out there. Thank you for watching. Take care.
Take care, guys.
Bye.